Good afternoon. Welcome back to this month's webinar. Welcome back to our regulars, and hello and welcome if it's your first time joining us. My name is Daniel Lawrence. I'm the founder of Bots for That. Today's webinar will hopefully not just be informative, but a little bit interactive. So we'll be inviting you to take part in a few survey questions during the next hour. So if you haven't done it already, please go to menti.com and use the code 74065176. It's on your screen, I think. And take part in the live poll questions and the pop quiz at the end for a chance to join our Bots for Bookkeeping and Accounting beta program. We've got Phil standing by. We'll give a wave, Phil. Smile and wave. Phil will be following your live chat feeds, so please submit any questions to us on whichever channel you're watching on, and we'll endeavour to answer those as we go, or Phil will interrupt me at some point and if he needs to ask me anything. And finally, we'll have some handouts available after the webinar, so please do get in touch if you have any questions or just want to chat more about what you see and hear today. And breaking news, no, it's not more an update on number 10, but if you'd like to be part of our growing community to learn more about what the future of work holds for us all, then join our Bots for That community to explore and learn all about bots and the future of work. We've got regular content from industry insiders and experts like Robert to my left, and to find out more about our beta program for bots, please go to community.botsforthat.com and sign up. It only takes a few seconds and it's free. Now I'm joined today by Rob Beale of Square Mile Accounting. Now, Rob is Senior Finance Business Partner. Welcome, Rob. Do you want to tell us a few things about yourself and Square Mile?
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. So hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm Rob Beale of Square Mile Accounting, a practice based in central London where, as Daniel touched on, I fill the role of Senior Finance Business Partner and look after the technology-focused portfolio. So I oversee and assist roughly 50 businesses at varying stages of the company's life cycle. So I guess a typical client of mine would be one that's just sourced a round of seed funding or might be burning its way through that cash and might be gearing up to a Series A. Doesn't need an in-house finance function, so come to us to provide the expertise of an in-house finance function without the added cost, of course. In terms of our service offering, we cover the day-to-day processing, so bookkeeping, sales invoicing, finance inbox management, management accounting, board packs, KPI analysis, year-end accounts, corporation tax, R&D, EMI, SEIS and EIS, a lot of acronyms, and then the stuff that I enjoy, so the advisory-based projects, so financial modelling, CFO placement, and other advisory services. So really a kind of an end-to-end solution. And given the nature of the clients we deal with, tech is obviously at the forefront of our mind when it comes to automation efficiencies, and hence our close relationship with these guys.
Thanks, Rob. So a few weeks ago, when we got together, we wanted to talk about all the sort of major amounts of manual work within your practice for both bookkeepers and accountants. But at that time, Rob also set me a challenge, and that was to tell him and find out where bots might be able to help him eliminating and automating tasks, manual work for the bookkeepers and accountants and throughout the practice. And so, challenge accepted. In today's webinar, we're going to share a little of what we talked about, what we found, and how we would go about using bots within Square Mile's practice and to assist Rob and the team. So, as always with bots, I always begin with a clear why, a clear purpose, a nice intention, because technology should either be an incredible enabler or a disruptor for a business, and preferably both of those. Now, Rob told me that first and foremost, bots must enable his practice to work more productively and therefore profitably, but with accuracy and speed as you'd expect. But it must free up as much time as possible for the bookkeepers and accountants in the firm so that they can spend more time adding more value to their client's business. And in short, Rob is a very forward-thinking guy, and the practices as well, and they want to embrace the future of what work can be in his firm. So, and Rob, you've experienced automation and bots probably long before we met. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what your experience was before?
Yep, absolutely. So I joined a company called Flinder in early mid-2019, who, like Square Mile, like to automate as many processes as possible. So to make our own and clients' lives much easier. And at Flinder, unlike most accounting practices, one of their first hires was an engineer. They have an in-house engineering team, which is alien to me with all the practices I've dealt with over the years, and gave me my first exposure to robotics. And the first bot that they created was called Eve. And what she would do, she'd go in every night, just after midnight, as the bank feeds refreshed in Xero, and reconcile the banks. So when it had a green invoice match or a bank rule, it pressed the OK button. A couple of nuances to that, but that's the long and short of it. And then after that, we designed bots around the kind of the more onerous processes, so a bit more bespoke. A common example that would arise would be where the client would have an external CRM or sales management system, didn't tie into Xero, so there's kind of very manual workaround. So they created a bespoke bot to mitigate that manual intervention, do the reconciliation between the two, and pull the sales data out and chuck it into Xero.
Good stuff. That's great. So that's good to hear. And I'm not surprised actually that 2019 was you started to experience that. I mean, our technology we've had around since about 2016, but lockdown was a major driver for companies using our bots and others as well. Our first bookkeeping and accounting bot actually came out during lockdown, and it was for furlough. It was called the Furlough bot, or it was nicknamed Furlotti. Anyway, what I'd like to do is I'll open up and kick off with our first poll question of the webinar. And question is, have you ever used bots before to automate manual tasks? And the choices are yes, as often as possible, as in Rob's case. I've often considered it or tested it, or no, not yet. So that's opening now. And if you'd like a copy of the combined poll results after the webinar or our data sheet, please go to community.botsforthat.com. And a couple more seconds for that. Excellent. Voting is closed, and we've got most people saying yes, as often as possible. So that's great to hear. A bit like yourself, Rob. So, Rob, when we talked about those manual work pain points in your practice for the bookkeepers and accountants, you initially came up with a fairly impressive list initially, I'll have to admit, and you can see on the slide here on the screen, which we then filtered and we refined, and we ended up with your top 3 processes and top 3 bots, effectively, which you would like. Which you feel that they have the most manual effort, they burn the most time, and they would also give you the most benefit if we're able to automate them, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, top 3 on our list were the payroll control bot. So, our in-house payroll guru, Catherine, runs about 100 payrolls a month. The output is the same. We use BrightPay as our solution, and that produces the very similar payroll reports, pay slips, etc. But the input, although we try to define it, sometimes gets a little bit creative from the client side with last minute changes and whatnot. So Catherine's a bit of an Excel whiz, so has created an Excel check effectively to make sure that input and the output marry up. Doing that manual check takes her anywhere, I guess, between 10 and 15 minutes per client, but times that by 100 clients, you can kind of see the scale of time she's spending there. So that was top of our list. Next is the bank rec bot, which is pretty much what I defined about 5 or so minutes ago with what I first encountered. And then the MA variance bot, which is what we'll come on to in a bit, and the main crux of this webinar. Then moving on, the rest of the roadmap and the rest of the list that we came up with, we had the misposting review bot. So high level, that's looking for duplicate postings, mismatches on where suppliers have been posted previously, multi-coded contacts, etc. The weekly client snapshot, so a snapshot of cash burn, profit and loss, balance sheet, net assets, etc. Prepayments and accruals. Now, I've used a piece of software for working papers before called Silverfin, and that's quite an expensive tool for what we're looking at for prepayments and accruals. But effectively, what it is the ability to plug in a date range, and the value, and it spits out your journals for you. MA controls. So my team spend a good amount of time rolling forward MA working papers and populating the tabs in Excel. Having a bot to do the auto roll forward for the period, spitting out some of the more basic controls for you would be extremely helpful. And then last but not least, VAT returns. So what I was thinking here is kind of like a similar output to what you would expect to give to HMRC on a compliance check. So top 10 sales invoices, top 10 purchase invoices, VAT rec, etc. Nicely spat out, so it makes the review process nice and easy. Unrecked items. So this is referring to the comment section on the Zero Bank Rec. That's quite painful to pull out. It's very manual. So the ability to pull that out and for both the client and ourselves to communicate would be extremely helpful. B1G1, this is something that is specific to Square Mile. So for every personal tax return, corporation tax return, accounts job that we submit, we donate a proportion of the fee to charity. And our two charities at the moment are a support for Ukraine and support for Kenyan schoolgirls getting into the accounting space, of kind of building up their accounting skills. Onboarding, again, another very onerous process. So we've got the welcome letter, ProClear, 64.8 authorization, billing, direct debit, et cetera, et cetera. Company secretarial. Now, with the client base we deal with, we get some, I guess, some spicier confirmation statements. Some of them are very easy, roll forward every single year. So having the ability to use a bot to roll forward some of the easier forms and do the form filling for us, again, very helpful. And then last but not least, ERS and EMI compliance. The ERS platform with HMRC is abysmal. Lot of screenshots because you can't get historic data, a lot of manual uploading of templates and whatnot. So again, having a bot that can pull out data from a client's option pool for the options granted and take care of the year-end filings, etc. Very helpful. So that's just a flavour of some of the bots that we come up with. And
I'm sure we'll come up with more.
Absolutely.
But effectively what we're talking about from a roadmap perspective is almost the digital bookkeeper, the bot bookkeeper effectively, so that it frees up as much time as possible. And I'd say the payroll control was not a surprise for me as a founder of a business. I've run my own payroll, unfortunately, several times, and I've never come across one system yet that I've used to eliminate all the manual work and checks and updates and make sure you did it right and you get accuracy. And when you're doing that for 10, maybe 100, even 1,000 or more clients, the risk of error and just gets bigger and bigger. So it's one of those things where it's very process oriented, it's very robotic, it's very rule based, very sequential steps. It's very easy for us to program a bot in order to do those tasks. So it's a great process for a bot, and we've added that to our roadmap now for Q1 of next year. The matched items process was, I guess, initially I was surprised by it. Then I thought, well, of course, most systems are set up and rely on a user to put the input in, review the output, make decisions, do stuff. So again, not really a surprise. Again, robotic, rule-bound, ideal for one of our bots to do, especially with the high volumes involved. So that's again a no-brainer for our roadmap in beta testing next year. And lastly, the analysis and review process, which is what we're here today to talk about in the webinar, which I'm familiar with from my own background. I'm sure many people watching are. It interests me as much as you, partly because I know how much time it can take to do and do well, but also because there's parts of this process which require judgment and decision making. And we often think about those sort of judgment-based tasks as very human, very non-repeatable. But actually, when you break down the thought processes behind them and the patterns, there's a lot of patterns there. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of commonality. So it's one of those things that, again, can be performed very well by a bot. In fact, bots probably are much better and more accurate and much faster at spotting less discernible patterns than we are. So you'll end up optimizing the process in the course of doing so. So in our last webinar in July, if you missed that one, you can find the replay on our community. We were joined by another of our Beta Bots program members, Neil Jackson, of Your Finance Partner. And we looked at a bot that he's been testing for us that runs all of his client reports, creates a combined management pack in Excel with all the formatting and the rearranging of the data. And it's all done automatically overnight without the press of a button and ready for his review work to start. And this is where the next stage in the process begins, the accounts analysis and review process. Rob, do you want to talk us through your own process, the source of data used, the logic followed? Just help me to really understand and talk us through the thought processes involved in managing that task.
Yep, time to get into the mind of Rob. So for the 50 or so clients that I produce, or look after rather, I produce about 25 to 30 MA reports per month. So that's kind of at differing levels of granularity. So for example, one might just be a month-end close. So P&L balance sheet's tidy, pass it over, client does their own board packs or analysis, or we do everything. So the month-end close, the reporting, board pack prep, and then presenting to the board. So regardless of that end output, the kind of the underlying review process is relatively standardized. Obviously, depending on the complexity of the client, depends on the time, but you get the point. So at present, one of my team, once the bookkeeping is closed, will provide me with a set of working papers. So draft P&L, balance sheet, cash summary, and then balance sheet support reconciliations, and then some commentary to go with it. So just to aid my review, so it might be the case, okay, Ed provides me with a set of MAs and says, sales have gone down because a number of customers have churned. Nice and easy. I've got that in the back of my mind. So I read those comments and then have those in the back of my mind and jump straight into the P&L. So I work my way down, so revenue, COGS, and then OPEX. As a default, with any review, I'm looking for anything that stands out, or obvious. So if I look at revenue, in line with Ed comments, it's dropped. Let's look at COGS and gross profit. Doesn't look quite right. It's a little bit out of ordinary. So okay, why is that? Oh, they've onboarded 5 salespeople in the month, not quite pulling their weights. It's just kind of a sunk cost at this point, not generating any value as such. So I'm adding that as a review point, so that Ed can either take that to the client, add it into the commentary, add a bit more flavour to what we're providing, and then dropping down into OPEX. In my mind, I've always got a value of £1,000 just by default. Materiality level differs per client, of course, but I've got that in my mind. And then as I work my way down into the P&L buckets, and when I say buckets, like people costs, premises expenses, other general admin, et cetera, I'm looking for any standard items. So one that is by default jumping around is legal and professional, just by nature of the beast. Now, ordinarily, I guess when I first started reviewing items, I would just go back to Ed and say, legal spend is up 50k. Why? He'd go, it's this invoice. What's the invoice for? And then just create this back and forth that's kind of unnecessary. So to mitigate that unnecessary time spent, I normally jump in to find the answer. So jump into Xero, look at the invoice. Yes, I know in the back of my mind they did a fundraise. Yes, it's to do with the fundraise. Should it be sitting in P&L? Should it be in cost of equity, etc. And I'm adding these comments, as I said, as I go along. Balance sheet and cash, I normally bucket together, again, looking for anything out of the ordinary. In my head, I know that cash burn rate is 150k. If I look at net cash flow in the month, we've got a net influx of 300k. Oh yes, to do with the fundraise. So again, I'm looking for standard items, adding them in as review points as I go along. So once I've digested all the info, the comments, the P&L, balance sheet, etc., I've got a nice, concise list of queries. Some are for Ed to come back to make adjustments. Some are to take to the client to add into the commentary. Now, that review process, so just my time, probably takes anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes on average per client. But again, depending on complexity. If I isolate my time spent just looking for answers, yes, it's not massively time consuming. However, for argument's sake, if it takes 10 to 15 minutes per client, times it by 30 clients, that's the best part of a day, a month. Now, that time could be better spent on prospect calls, upselling, or doing stuff like this. Talking my face in front of everyone. Or,
playing golf.
Okay, playing golf, very good. There you go, there you go.
All right, so thanks for that. That's really helpful. I'm going to just recap, just so I can get my own understanding of it. I've just done something here, but so this is the MA review. Let's put that on there. And don't worry, my excellent team will disseminate and put this into something that we can share with everybody after the webinar. But basically, and this is per Rob, effectively, and there'll be a few Robs in your practice. There'll be several Robs in lots of other practices, same sort of thing, but per finance partner, right? So per finance partner, so it's a bit shaky. Per finance partner, 50 clients, and it's 25 to 30 packs. Okay. And as you said there, depending on the client, the pack will vary. Okay. So there's some variability that we have to deal with. But the good thing is there's a lot of standardized logic and steps that you would go through. Standardization that's in there, which is great. So let me just recap what I understood from your process. We always have a start point for a process. And in this case, it always then begins with the end of the month. The bookkeeping closed. That's the start point. So at that point, the bookkeeper or bookkeepers, they have to go in and prepare the working papers. So they're going in to prepare that working paper pack with, the P&L, the balance sheet, so on and so forth. That obviously takes them time. They've got to go in, download those or extract them, put them into Excel, put them into the templates and formats you use, get everything ready. And that effectively is all the bookkeepers. Okay. Once that's done, and they've added their notes as well, they've added in some commentary to that pack, that's when your process effectively then, the finance partner process and review begins. Okay. I'm good so far?
Yeah, not bad.
And then, well, not bad. It's not bad coming from you, I'll take that. And then you're looking for trends.
Yep.
You're looking for standouts from those trends. You're looking for variances and tolerance levels. You're using things like the £1,000 and so on and so forth, depending on them. You're looking for the notes from the bookkeeper to see what they've said and found. And then you're also then dipping into Xero, spreadsheets, other systems, websites, whatever it happens to be. So you're going into other systems to get data out and find out what's going on. So that's what you're then doing. And this is all the finance business partner. Okay, right. And then that's done. You go through your review. I imagine you're probably making then working paper updates, probably creating a journal or two, making some adjustments and posting those as well. Getting those done to the point where it's then ready to go to the client. And then basically rinse and repeat and do that 25 to 30 times per Rob and Rob's equivalent in the business. Time for that. Okay, so we've got 30 packs, 30 minutes.
Sorry, I'm still not sure about that.
That's okay, Siri. We'll talk later. So 30 packs.
Sure I understand.
Doesn't get your maths.
I think Siri doesn't understand accounting. This is the problem. So 30 minutes, 30 packs. That's a total of, maybe we should check with Siri. This is 900 minutes, I think, but she might be differently. So 900 minutes per month for you alone, for your portfolio, which is under 15 hours.
And I would, just to jump in. Yeah, exactly. I would jump in. That 30 minutes is probably slightly light, because if you think my time is 30, 45 minutes, just kind of the review process, if you like.
Yeah.
You've got the bookkeeping time, which is probably another 30 to 45 minutes, an hour. So you're creeping up to, I don't know, the hour and a half mark.
Yeah.
So that number
suddenly gets
1.5 or 2 times.
2 times that. And if you've got 1,000 clients, it's times that. It's 5,000 clients.
So
it gets bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Okay. Sorry, we're just trying to switch Siri off, so bear with us as we go through this little technical difficulty. We should probably build a bot for that to disable Siri and Alexa, just in case there's one of those in the room too. Are you there? Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry, folks, bear with us. Keep going. There you go. Okay. Right. Perfect. That's it. Got it. We got it. We missed one device, unfortunately. So apologies for that, everybody. Right. Next, let's look then at how we would use a bot to solution that process in your MA review process. So a few basics. Let's start off with a few basics, ground rules, I guess, that we would want to establish as we start to build this thing in terms of what the bot must be and must do. Okay, so given you've got 50 clients, 25 to 30, same for another finance partner, another finance partner, the one thing this has to be is scalable. First and foremost, it has to be scalable. And because of the variability in this process, it's got to be customizable, flexible, so that it can incorporate all the different things, because every client's unique. As much
Yep.
as they're similar, they are unique. And then what we've got to do, this thing that must do is it must save time, cost. In other words, it's got for you to produce a positive ROI, a return on investment. Okay, so looking at the process we've got there from a bot's perspective, we still have a start and it's still the end of the month. Although I often find, just from experience, there's some things you don't need to wait until the first day of the month to go back and start checking. There are some things that you could have a continuous cycle of checking on.
Absolutely.
So you don't actually end up with problems and you can be more proactive and fix things before they arise.
My team absolutely love it, but I introduce what's called a soft close.
There you go.
And they like to remind me how fantastic that is every single month.
Okay.
No sarcasm there whatsoever.
No, I'm sure there was.
Sorry.
I'm sure there wasn't.
As you
And we
were.
could, and it's one of those things that there are certain things that bots could do every day across all of your clients to pick things up sooner rather than later. But that end of month close is done. Then we're going on to, again, producing the working papers pack, a P&L, balance sheet, cash, recs, notes. But this can now be the bot.
Mm-hmm.
So in our future world, that will be the bot that gets to produce that thing. Then comes the working papers with the review. So this is what we want the bot to do next. And again, this is going to be the bot. Tall order, but I think doable. And then once that's all done, it's basically going to provide you with a pack that is complete, accurate, has notes, links, explanations, that you can then sanity check, whether it's all of them, a certain number, sample check them until you get to the level where you're comfortable and you can let this thing run. So that's effectively what the process would be. You get to the point where you're checking and signing off. In terms of the bot logic, start to think about some of the bot logic that we would need to put in place for that to work. Apologies for my handwriting, by the way. I'm an accountant as well.
A lot better than mine.
Yeah. So let's take the P&L as one item,
Yep.
and let's take revenue, because obviously we can't explore the whole thing, but we'll take P&L and we'll take the revenue. So for the revenue, we're going to go by line item, so line level, the detail, and we're going to look for current month amounts. Yeah. Bot is then need to compare, and this is where the good bit comes in, because that bot can now compare that with prior month, quarter, year, all three, any combination of. It could compare them to a budget or a forecast. That data could be in Xero, it could be in spreadsheets, it could be on a Google Docs, it could be in Fathom, CRM system, Salesforce, HubSpot, anywhere at all, any system, any piece of data, anywhere, even a database that's been created. Bot would go off and get that same information for the same period to check. Okay, so if it was said it was 5 customers with 5 invoices, we had 6 invoices and 6 customers in the forecast, there's an immediate spot, there's a standout item. Put that in. Next thing you probably want to do is we need it to calculate variances. And that will be things like the greater of or lesser of £1,000 or a percentage, for example, depending on the materiality of the client. So that could all be brought in. And then if the variance is greater than or equal to a certain amount or percentage, then it needs to do something. And in that case, it's probably going to be getting data. So it's going to be gathering data. That's going to be the number one thing it needs to do. Go off and gather data that is same thing that you would do.
Yeah.
Go into different systems, talking to different people. We won't talk about introducing chatbots yet, but that's a possibility too. But you've got to go off and get that data. Go off, get that data, pull it in, put it into a sheet, put it somewhere, put it onto the working papers, create a link so that when you go in to look, if you want to look at the detail behind it, you click on the link, boom. But it effectively all the data is there. The output of that is that, as I said, that completed pack ready for your eyes and your eyes only, or the bookkeepers. This is where you divide and conquer and assign responsibilities. All that being, let's look at the time that potentially could then do. It's difficult to say for exactly until we build bots, but from all the hundreds of bots that we've built, a bot is at least 90% more efficient. So out of 30 minutes, let's say it's going to take only 3 to do the same work. So that's a 27-minute reduction times 30 packs. What's that, Siri? 810 minutes saving. So out of 900 minutes today, a saving of 810 of those potentially, which is 13 hours or more. As you said, that's probably conservative.
exactly.
So it's probably upward of 2 days per portfolio pack for you in terms of savings. So that's quite cool. That's quite interesting. I'm really looking forward to actually getting stuck into that bot. I know the team is as well, because we looked at this one before we came down today, and they're really looking forward to getting stuck into that. So sorry, I'm drifting out of shot, get carried away with the numbers. So I think that's all we need to make a start, Rob. Obviously, we can make that bot more sophisticated and smarter as we go. But no, that's what the beta program's for. But otherwise, that's added to the beta program for testing in early 2023. If we're lucky, we can get you an early Christmas present and get your first cut this year, fingers crossed. So we'll continue to work on this together. If anyone is interested to find out more and be involved in the first beta tests early next year for that, please do get in touch after the webinar. Anyway, I think it's time we're only doing a couple of these today, so I think it's time for our second and final poll question for today. This time I'd like to ask, on average, how long do you spend per client per month working on this kind of review and analysis pack work? Choices are on the screen now, and it's less than 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, or more than 45 minutes. Again, if you'd like a copy of the combined poll results, the data handsheet, the full recording, please go to community.botsforthat.com and you grab them there. And voting is closed, the results are in, and it looks like, on average, it's definitely well over 30 minutes. It's either 30 to 45 or over 45. So it's taken, you're probably just better than average, Rob.
Fantastic.
Does that make you feel good?
I'm told that a lot.
Okay. So Rob, when you and I, when we got together a few weeks back, when we looked at all this manual work pipeline, we've been built this up. We also had a very interesting chat about how the work of bookkeepers and accountants has changed over the last decade. It's certainly changed in the 3 decades since I did it. But especially in the last couple of years with COVID and remote working and hybrid working, we talked about the pros and the cons, and where you see the role of the bookkeeper and accountant going in the next decade, which is really obviously interests me a lot.
Yeah, excellent. So I touched on this when we spoke a few weeks ago. So the kind of the acceleration of technology in all markets has made a lot of onerous processes a lot easier, which I'm all for. So if I think back to my training 10 or so years ago, everything was manual, paper-based, painful. But to that point, I had to understand all the goings on of what I was doing. So if I think of an accounts prep job, you had to code up the TB, all your debits and credits, your debt, your equity, your expenses, your revenue, and then post it to the accounting software. Whereas nowadays, you've got a direct link between Xero and whatever software you use. So my view is that the new trainees coming through by default have kind of 2 strings to their bow. They've got the accounting piece, but undoubtedly there's a tech aspect which is just there within their training and development. So you're creating this kind of hybrid of accounting tech experts, if you like, which is fantastic, because you'll have the underlying pure accounting advice, but in addition you've got this sort of digital consultant. Now, there are a lot of accounting practices out there now. 5 or 6 years ago, the fact that you were Xero certified held a lot of weight. Nowadays, not so much. So this digital consulting, finance transformation, autonomy piece really kind of separates you from the pack.
Yeah, good stuff. So digital bookkeeper and digital bookkeeper, that's the way to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, in a flooded marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff. Okay, so knowing your thoughts then on the future of work for bookkeepers and accountants, and in your practice in particular, can you share and tell the folks a bit more about your top 5 bots that you came up with just prior to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, AML. Very painful process. We have to do it when we onboard clients. We do it when we, at least probably once a year for the company, the individuals. Now, we're trialing a solution with Go Proposal at the moment, but our legacy way of doing things is very painful. Second, ProClear. I kind of alluded to this on the onboarding bot in the roadmap, but as a growing business, we do this multiple times a month. it forms the same, on the most part, the same pattern and template. It's just the contact changes. And then unfortunately, there are times where we have to respond to a letter to a new advisor, but having a bot that populates it for you, gleans the information and blasts it out, would be brilliant.
Does that need to go outside as well to get information that's in the public domain anywhere?
Potentially.
Yeah, great. Again, bot's perfect for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Billing and proposal. So we use Go Proposal for our drawing up proposals and our billing. Obviously, there's some automation there because it links with Xero, so it creates the bills for you. But with the sorts of clients we're dealing with, we're often upselling, signing up new clients. So there's always this like reconciliation we have to do between billing and what's reality, what's going out the door. So having a bot that recognizes any upsell or new clients or any proposal signs and having that reconciliation between the two would be really helpful. HMRC forms, now they've got somewhat better in the last 5 years or so. There's some that are online. There's some that are online that you still have to print and post, but still painful. So having a bot that would allow you to populate template, populates the HMRC form and fires it out the door for the client's approval. Brilliant.
Hardest final sometimes that is finding the form.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And then last but not least, this is KPI analysis is a little bit
self-indulgent.
Yeah, I guess. But with regards to Square Mile, so we've been going through a project over the last few months of moving away from timesheets and measuring output, not input. So moving away from populating timesheets as an input, i.e. amount of time spent on a job as opposed to value created. Now, we went live with that on the 1st of October. So as you can appreciate, it's a little bit of a manual process at the moment. And there's a disconnect between the job management system we use and what's being populated on the KPI board. So having a solution that marries the two up, recognizes who's done the job, the value to that job, and populates the KPI, and the value created would be a big time saver. Yeah.
No, there's nothing on there that I don't think we could definitely help with. This one in particular, actually, we work with a lot of betting and gaming companies as well, and we build a lot of bots that do compliance, regulatory compliance. They do AML checks, PEPs and sanctions, and background checks, all those sorts of things, board of directors checks. So we've actually built a lot of automations that do a lot of those processes. So that's something that we could migrate and transfer over. There's a lot of transferability there. So brilliant. Look forward to looking through some of those as well. So excellent. Thanks, Rob. I look forward to working on those. So bots. So we'll look forward to seeing sort of some of those on the roadmap maybe, but we'll see how that goes. Before we wrap up today and move on to the pop quiz next, we've we've followed up on the bot management pack today, which we looked at in the last webinar. Looked at the next step of that, which is defining the M&A analysis process and the M&A bot process bot. And we talked a little bit about the future of work and accountants and how that you see that role changing. So finally, we talked about where we're going to see that going when we bring more bots into the practice and how those roles will change. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Thank you very much. If you've seen or heard something intriguing today and want to find out more and maybe join our bots beta program, go to community.botsforthat.com. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, there's a link to handouts and poll results as well. And I'll just do a quick check with Phil if there are any final questions submitted on the live chat that we haven't answered yet.
No, there are no questions.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. So finally, for everyone who stayed till the end, it's time for our ultra quick pop quiz. Takes about 2 minutes or so less. And this is for a chance to get, again, copy of all the handouts, the recording, and to be able to join our Bots for Beta program. So and maybe get your own bots added to a roadmap in 2023. The quiz will be on your screens. Okay, now go to www.menti.com. Phil, you want to make a start? Questions 1. So which area of the 3 that Rob identified did we choose to cover in today's webinar? Payroll control, monthly accounts review, or bank rec matched release? Just a few seconds. Okay, cool. Ah, everyone got it right.
Listening.
Accountants. Brilliant. Question 2. Brilliant stuff. Phil, do they see this image on their screens? They do, yeah. So where is Square Mile Accounting based? Bot Central. Soon to be. Who answered Scotland?
It's my thick Scottish accent, that's why.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Next question. Well, with the referendum coming, you'll have to move out.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go.
So what was the name of the furlough bot that we created during lockdown? I quite like answer 2, actually. We didn't think of that. Sounds like HAL 2000 from Space. Ah, someone's not been listening.
No.
Question 4. Remember, the fastest answer gets this one. Which one of these was one of Rob's top 5 bots? Out of Office, Calendar Clash, or KPI? And of course, the answer was KPI analysis. We've got someone today who's not been paying attention, I think. I think this is where multitasking is failing.
Probably one of my team.
Probably one of your team. Well, they should stop work and concentrate. And the last question. Are you excited to join and explore the new bots for that community? You, Rob?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And there can only be one answer. I don't think anyone's going to get this one wrong. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 5 of you were wrong. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so that concludes our webinar for this month. We'll be back again next month. Sorry for the Siri interruptions today. Apologies for that. I hope it didn't spoil your enjoyment. We'll make sure Siri and Alexa are not invited next time around. So thanks very much and see you again soon. Thank you.